Just to explain briefly what is the difference between takaful and the compulsion. In fact, takaful is the Islamic way to overcome the gharar in insurance. And in fact, to make a takaful or to make an insurance operation Sharia compliant, we need to follow a certain requirement. And the first requirement, the policy should be based on tabarra or donation, which is something very important and different from the compulsion. This is number one. Number two, all our policies and all our investments are under the supervision of a Sharia board. We have to have a minimum of 3 Sharia scholars. Number three, all investments must be Sharia compliant or must be in Sharia compliant vehicle. Number four, which is also an important element, we have to have what we call the fund segregation, i.e. we have to have 2 funds, one for our policyholders and one for the shareholders. Shareholders are entitled to make their profit from their capital and from their fund, while the policyholder can benefit from the surplus. And this is something which is different. In the modern days, Takaful is an hybrid solution or an hybrid model between the mutual, which is very well-known concept in the West, and shareholder companies. To overcome the obstacles, I think our Sharia scholars, starting from the Fiqh Academy resolution in 1985, decided that the cooperative model or the takaful model should be based on this fund segregation with the elements I mentioned. Now, the Re-Takaful operate in a similar manner, but this is the second level relation. In a takaful operation, we are pulling individual policyholders, being individuals, being SMEs, being corporation. In the Re-Takaful, we are reinsurance companies, but working on Sharia compliant basis, i.e. we are pooling the risk coming from different takaful companies. We have different pools. We can have 2, 3, 4, 5 pools depending on the way we want to run our business. And we have the obligation to return the surplus to the policyholder. And this is something which is different. And in fact, Re-Takaful is a very modern industry or a very modern concept to make the whole operation Sharia compliant, because when we started Takaful operation since 1979 until, let's say, the mid of year 2000, we had no real Sharia compliant reinsurance. Starting from 1985 with Takaful Re, we start having fully fledged Sharia compliant. Now today we have 14 companies or 15 companies who are offering Re-Takaful services. And alhamdulillah, today we have plenty of capacity to service the takaful industry. In fact, we had, let's say, 3 generations or 3 waves of takaful. We had the initial takaful, which started at the time we used to call it Islamic insurance. In Sudan and Saudi Arabia, let's say the first wave from 1979 until 1985. And we had the second generation starting from 1985, where we had Best Aviation Sheri in Tunisia, and we had 2 takaful companies, one in Saudi Arabia, takaful, and the other one which was takaful and Re-Takaful. And we had the third wave. I consider that the third generation of the third wave start from 2001, 2002, and I will explain why. In fact, in the initial stage, the concept was not yet elaborated, number one. And bankers, especially Islamic banks, were looking for something to make their operation, their lending, their ijara, etc., Sharia compliant. And this is why Bank Faisal in Sudan and in Saudi Arabia started their operation. And then Al Baraka Group did the same, almost same year. And during this period from 1979 until 1984, in fact, it was, I'd say, really the beginning period. It was a really beginning. But in 1984, we had a major change in the market, and then we had the Takaful Act in Malaysia, and the starting of Sharikat Takaful Malaysia. I think Sharikat Takaful Malaysia and the Takaful Act in Malaysia was a turning point, because we moved from, let's say, some not very clear concept to Takaful concept, which was very clear. They made, Bank Negara made the Takaful concept very clear, and STMB was the first experience really successful. Why it was successful at that time? Because of the nature of the market, the volume of the business, etc., etc. And Sharikat Takaful, since 1984 until now, is one of the leading companies in Malaysia. But thank God, we have now, starting from 2001 and 2002, we had new companies, new entrants in the market, and we had a big wave, especially in years 2005, 2006, before the 2008 recession. And this wave, we had plenty of companies. We had companies in Malaysia, we had companies in the Middle East, etc. And now, which experience is the more successful? I will say the most successful experiences we can summarize in two territories. The first territory is Malaysia. Today we have a company like Itika, or a company like Ikhlas, and the existing Takaful companies in Malaysia, they are successful. They are successful in terms of surplus distribution, in terms of market share, etc., etc. A company like Itika is something like $1.5 billion, which is the largest. And now the other territory which Takaful is also successful is Brunei. Brunei, 70% of the market, although it's very small, it's a very small market, but the market is 70% Takaful, and they have the Takaful Act. Saudi Arabia is also a successful model, but the model is slightly different, which is the cooperative model. If we take a company like Ta'awuniya X NCCI, is generating something like $1.5, $1.6 billion, and it's a huge corporation, successful operation, having one of the best performance among the insurance industry in the Middle East. And after 2005, as I said, we had a new wave of companies in Kuwait, in UAE, even in Malaysia. Unfortunately, what happens in 2008, the recession, I think it came on the really in a very, very bad time for Takaful companies, because Takaful companies were launched, especially in the Middle East. Some of them were launched by investors looking for the opportunity to invest their capital, etc. And then Takaful companies were hit by the recession, or hit by the real estate crash, were hit by the stocks fall down, etc. And these companies are struggling now. Today, we have three types of companies. We have successful companies, as I said, Itika, Ikhlas, Ta'awuni, and some companies. We have companies who are doing relatively well, but they are still building their market share and their portfolio. And we have companies who are really struggling. Until now, they did not realize enough, let's say, good performance for their shareholders, for their policyholders. And starting from 2005, we have also fully fledged Re-Takaful operator. And this is something which is a positive development for the market. And today, among the 15 companies, we have 13 who are A-rated companies. This is an excellent performance. I think this is something which is positive. But the problem here with the Takaful movement, or the Takaful industry in general, is the limited size of the market. Now when we see how much is Takaful in UAE, for example, is less than 8%. How much is Takaful in some other jurisdiction like Kuwait or Jordan is something below 12, 10%. And I think there is a margin to grow. There is a huge margin to grow. And it's up to Takaful company to grow. The problem today is not to grow at the expense of the conventional company, but to overpass the conventional company. This is the problem for Takaful company. Takaful companies, what they are doing now, they are more competing on the same business as the conventional, while we should have our own way, we should differentiate ourselves. Now just to end this by a comment on the Re-Takaful. Re-Takaful, in fact, are also suffering from the limited size of the market, because if Takaful, even if today we have something like 8 to 9, which is we call really pure 8 to 9 billion US dollar, which we call pure Takaful, i.e. Takaful companies plus the cooperative model, without including Iran, is still very small, because on the Re-Takaful side, if we consider out of 8 or 9 billion, 30% is ceded to Re-Takaful, it's a small market for the existing Re-Takaful. Let's start by the similarities. We are doing exactly the same underwriting and the same risk assessment. Technically speaking, we are not different, except when it comes to the type of risk we are writing. For example, we cannot write any casino, we cannot write any non-halal or any haram business. This is very clear. But when it comes to technical underwriting, it's almost the same. When it comes to actual work, it's exactly the same. But what is the main difference? The main difference is the whole concept is different. We have a different spirit, number one. Number two, we have a different model. Our business model is different from the conventional model. Our model is based on, as we say, on brotherhood, is based on solidarity, and this is what makes our operation really mutual. We have also to mention that the Takaful model is based on the fact that we are not talking about premium. Premium are donation. You are contributing, you are donating to a pool, and you should not expect anything from this pool unless if you have a claim. But the more important thing, we as a Takaful companies or a Takaful operator, we are the custodian. We are the manager for the pool. The pool is not our property. The pool is the property of the policyholder. And we have to make all necessary effort to make this pool transparent, to make this pool profitable, etc. To make it profitable, not for the shareholder, but to make it profitable for the policyholder. Of course, shareholders, they have their source of income. They have the investment of their capital, but also they have their wakala, which is an upfront fee, and they might have also some incentive. If we improve the performance of the pool, definitely will improve also, or will increase the profit for the shareholders. I think these are the main differences. Technically, to summarize, technically we are not different because we do the same underwriting, but when it comes to the spirit, when it comes to the business model, we are really very different. Of course, we don't have one challenge. Unfortunately, we have many challenges, and we are facing many challenges. One of them, and this is my preferred challenge, is the mindset. Because the problem in Takaful industry, in the Re-Takaful industry, underwriter, technicians, accountant, finance person are coming from the conventional side, and they are bringing with them their conventional reflex. They are bringing with them their conventional way of doing business, and I think it will take some time really to change the mindset. I think we need to educate people. Until now, especially in the GCC countries in the Middle East, in the whole MENA region, from Morocco to Bahrain to Jordan, etc., we have a real problem. We do not have enough takaful specialists because our managers, our underwriters are either coming from the conventional and or are even non-Muslim. And how can you initiate or how can you change the mindset? I think this is the challenge, because we need to train people, but we have also to teach them that the spirit of takaful is something different from the conventional. Today, if you are working for a takaful company, you have to act and you have to give the example. You have to be an example in terms of transparency. Until now, unfortunately, this is not yet the case. We have to be transparent and we have to be Sharia compliant in all our actions. Is this the case today? I don't think so, to be honest. We have to be clear about this. But I think we should give time to time, i.e. we should also understand that this takaful, especially in the Middle East, is something which is relatively new. Not very new, but relatively new. But definitely takaful movement or takaful companies should work hand in hand with the government, and the government must be aware that takaful can help in developing insurance offer, in developing takaful, to overcome the reluctance of the population, to increase the awareness. We need to educate people, and we need to spend money to educate local people. And even if we have to bring expatriate, we have to make sure that the expatriate we are bringing to the takaful companies are aware about takaful, and they can really work and act as takaful people. Because if we don't think and act takaful, I think we will have a problem. And this is, in my opinion, one option. We have other challenges. Some other challenges are the limited investment opportunities for us. Till now, we have limited investment opportunities. I can say from my experience that till now, what we have in terms of investment vehicles is relatively limited to comparatively to the conventional. What we have also as a challenge is the kind of, let's say, negative image or negative propaganda, made against takaful. But things are changing. 10 years ago, when I was speaking on takaful, people were either loving or questioning the model. Today, after seeing the big boys, the big, let's say, the global players coming to takaful, now we are considered to be a serious segment of the takaful of the insurance industry. But we have some other challenges. But my main concern is the lack of differentiation because of the mindset. I think if you want to differentiate ourselves, and this is something important, I keep always giving the same example between regular food and organic food. If you don't follow strictly the procedure, if you don't follow strictly the standard to make a food really halal or really organic, people will not trust you. And this is what we need today. Today we have to be really very strict in terms of compliance, in terms of corporate governance, in terms of transparency. We have some data, and we are, in Takaful, we are every year we are publishing the World Islamic Insurance Directory. We published the last one, 2012 one, in April this year. And in fact, today we have three components of the Takaful industry, or Islamic. We would like to call it Islamic. The main component is the Takaful. Then we have the cooperative, mainly Saudi Arabia, and we have the Iranian market, which is not purely takaful, but however, Iran being a Muslim country and the cornerstone of the whole system is the Sharia, we are considering Iran also as part of the Islamic insurance industry. Today, the Islamic industry or the Islamic insurance industry is about $12 billion. The growth we have seen in the past 5 years was something like 18 to 20%. I don't think that the 18 to 20% will continue, especially after the 2008 recession, and especially after the 2011 and 2012, let's say, recession. However, if we consider a minimum of 10 to 12% growth, I think the number will double in less than 7 years. Because if we consider 10% growth, it will double in 7 years. I do expect, and this is my hope, to see Takaful growing by at least 15%. I'm very optimistic. Why I'm very optimistic? For a very simple reason. In fact, starting from a very low level of penetration, for example, Saudi Arabia 1% penetration, I think Saudi Arabia can go up to 5 within, let's say, 10 to 15 years. Can you imagine how much will be the volume generated by Saudi Arabia? We started from almost nothing, 5 years ago. Today we have something like 1%, around $5 billion. If we multiply this by 3 or 4 within the coming 7 years, can you imagine the potential? Same applies to UAE, same applies to other countries. And I think because of the government spending, especially in rich oil producing countries, mainly Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, definitely things will continue growing, and insurance, Takaful will continue growing. This is number one. Number two, do not forget something which is very important. Today, we have a middle class which now more and more visible. And middle class has needs in terms of saving, has needs in terms of insurance for cars, for their houses, etc., etc. And definitely this is, and in terms of medical. In the medical, we have the compulsory medical, and we have also a demand from the individuals, from the family. I think it will continue expanding. Definitely, when I started my career, the whole Arab world was generating something like $4 or $5 billion. Today, Saudi Arabia alone is generating more than $5 billion, and UAE is generating almost $6 billion. The whole Arab world is generating $23 billion. I think things will continue. As I explained yesterday in my presentation, some very optimistic insurance professionals are talking about 100 to 120. Let's be realistic. I think within the coming 5 to 7 years, I think the volume generated by the Arab world can reach something like 45 to 50 billion. Now the question is, how much will be Takaful share of this? Takaful share will grow faster. Why? Because today we have a new geopolitical situation in Morocco, in Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, etc., etc. And today we have governments who are trying to enforce Islamic finance regulation, Takaful regulation, etc. It was not the case 2 years ago. It was not the case. Takaful companies were struggling, and it was even forbidden, to talk about Takaful, to talk about Islamic finance in some countries like Tunisia 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Today, there is a real demand for Takaful. There is a real, let's say, interest from the investors to start their Takaful operation. This is why, if we assume, let's say, 10% or 12% growth for insurance, I can assure you that we will have more than 15 to 16% growth in Takaful. This is not very optimistic. I'm realistic. Takaful will continue growing, but we have to be aware. It will grow subject to differentiation. It will grow subject to professionalism. It will grow subject to transparency. It will grow subject to corporate governance. It will grow subject to real Takaful mindset. Do not forget, if we have to act Takaful and we want to succeed, we have also to take Takaful. This is my opinion, but definitely it will grow.